Greetings to the constitutional law students. I am Advocate Sogo, and let us continue with our lesson on constitutionalism or constitutionality as defined by Aristotle. Okay, then there is a debate around aristocracy, whether aristocracy exists or it does not exist. But depending on what spectrum of politics you are, some people believe that there is no longer aristocratic government in the world. But some are saying countries like China, right? Countries like China and the Islamic Republic of Iran are the remaining aristocrats or oligarchy government, because sometimes some would say even in Russia there is oligarchy going on there. But it's for you to decide whether you think China is a democracy or not, or you think the Islamic Republic of Iran is a democracy or no, where there is a spiritual leader like the Ayatollah Khomeini. But that's another topic for another day. But let's continue now with what happened in our country, in South Africa. Right? We know that South Africa was once governed by the Dutch, and then there came the English, who took over from the Dutch during the South African War, which was also called the Anglo-Boer War, right? And now fast forward to 1910. Then in 1910, South Africa had something which was called the Union of South Africa, which came about on the 31st of May, 1910. You know, during our times, 31 May was a holiday, because that is when South Africa was now formed, was now transformed into what was called the Union of South Africa. That was after the Anglo-Boer War, right? So there was this holiday on the 31st of May. It's no longer a holiday now, right? But then there was this Union of South Africa, and then there was the Republic of South Africa. The Republic of South Africa came about after coming into power of the National Party. Then they formed what was called the Republic of South Africa, where now the National Party was at the helm. They were making the laws from 1948, and then they decided to make it a republic on the 31st of May again. So you must look at these resemblances, because they wanted to keep that day a holiday, but not for the Union of South Africa, for the Republic of South Africa. Then it became a republic on the 31st of May again in 1961. You can see that it was done deliberately, right? And then from that day, our country became an oligarchy. Remember what I said? An oligarchy was this group of people who ran a government. This is what happened. Whereas the majority of the citizens of the country were not allowed to form part of the government. That is why it was now described as an oligarchy. And this happened from 1961 up to the 26th of April 1994. That is now the eve of dawning of the Democratic Republic of South Africa. So from the 27th of April 1994, South Africa became a democracy, because all citizens were able to vote right? And that is the key indicator of a democracy. If you have a country where people don't vote, a majority of people don't vote, then you must know that is an oligarchy or an aristocracy. Okay. Now let's talk about democracy. The democracy. What is democracy? How many democracies do we have? Some people say there are 9. Some say there's even more than 9 democracies in the world. Okay. Let us now define the word democracy. If you want to do some reading around democracy, you must look at a book written by somebody called Theunis Rooks, if you like. He's got his own definition of democracy. Right, but democracy, like I've said, can be described as a government by the people, for the people, or it means that the decisions affecting the members of a political community, right, should be taken by the members themselves, or at least by elected representatives whose power to make those decisions ultimately derives from the members themselves, that is, the members of that community. So that's the decision I can give you for democracy. All right. Like I've said, some people say there's only 2 types of democracy. There is what is called a direct democracy and a representative democracy. Others will say there are 9 or more types of democracies. Right, so it's up to you to decide how many democracies do you think there could be in a nation, right? Okay, now let us continue with our. Just to add on the types of democracy, people will talk of something called direct democracy, representative democracy, constitutional democracy, parliamentary democracy, deliberative democracy, participatory democracy, and number 7 would be presidential democracy. And there's also, if you go to the countries like, in Saudi Arabia, Saudi Arabia is also a monarchy, right? I think if you go to places like Iraq and places like Libya during Muammar Gaddafi, there was something called Islamic democracy, and people were happy with what was happening in Libya until America came and bombed this guy Gaddafi to death. Then the country is now in shambles. So you saw, which means Islamic democracy works, because after the death of Gaddafi, Libya is in tatters as we speak, and it will never be the same. Whether it was done deliberately by America, it's for you to make your own conclusion. Right, there's also something called social democracy. Social democracy, I would suppose that it's where people, instead of capitalism, they will get $350 a month, social grants. I think it goes with social grants, social democracy. And there's also the people's democracy. So you can make your own decisions as to which category do we as South Africans fall under. And also, democracies in the world, they vary in forms and traditions. However, they share the common fundamental value of government by the people, whether it is Islamic or whichever type of democracy, but it should be a government by the people, right? In South Africa, this will occur through something called a representative democracy that is both participatory and deliberate. It's also deliberative, right? So because we'll have something like imbizo where people are called to come and comment and make comments, and when a law is passed, people will be it's enacted into a law, it becomes a bill, and people will have to contribute in that bill. So you have a right to also deliberate over a bill before it is made a law, right? So this will stem from the recognition that political rights in the Constitution facilitate both the election of representative leaders and continuing entitlement by the people to be involved in political decision making. So, and like we said, like this year in 2024, the president has an obligation to announce that the 29th of May will be the day when everybody will vote a new government into power. That's an obligation. If you don't do that, that will be unconstitutional. So in short, South Africa is a constitutional representative democracy that is both participatory and deliberative. Okay, then let us end this lesson there. Then we'll continue with the other one, because I see that we have gone 11 minutes into this one. I don't want to bore you with long talks that sometimes some of you don't even understand. So let us pause it there and continue just after this.